some of them are listed in your handbook. There's a few that aren't. There's one stretch that Dr. Joe shows that we just don't use because it involves sitting in a chair and putting your face up against the client's face and pressing your cheek into their head. Yeah, so for us that's a boundary issue. You know? So we don't do that one. It's listed in there. So there's a couple of stretches, and remember with stretching, if someone has an injury to the joint, you really don't want to do stretching. If someone's hypermobile, you need to really be careful. Sometimes we don't, stretch with hypermobility. And then you have to remember too that when we're stretching today, the muscles really aren't warmed up. So like you would do massage before stretching would come later if you're going to use stretching. It wouldn't be the first thing you'd do. So when you're working with the person you're going to work with today, just keep that in mind and try not to overdo anything unless the person you're working with is already very flexible. So and also sometimes with age people have less. I mean, just as a general rule, that's not necessarily true across the board, but as people age, they lose some flexibility. So the first two stretches is going to kind of be a press and cross stretch where you're kind of pinning the shoulder in one way, downward motion, and then we're going to first do stretch more for the side of the neck, so you get part of the SCM, part of the levator scapula, part of the upper trap as well. The second stretch will be very similar, where we're just, instead of having the nose pointed towards the ceiling, we're going to just turn the head to the side before we stretch. And so if I'm working on Brian's left side, my left hand is going to be on his occipital ridge, and see then I just encompass his ear between my index finger and thumb, like so. I keep the head straight up with the nose pointing towards the ceiling for this. So what you want to do before you do the cross stretch is you want to get the head in position. So, because if I just start pressing here, see how the pushing here, to do the stretch, see how the head rolls. So you really just want to get the head in position first. And then other hand crosses over. The first thing you're going to do is put downward pressure with my right hand on the client's shoulder, or Brian's shoulder, and then I'm going to push with my left. So this is not, the pressure on his shoulder is actually going to his foot. It's not downward pressure here. So step one, in this position, get the head set to go. Step two, place your right hand on the left shoulder. And then step three, press down on the shoulder. And then step four is then push with the hand that's under the occipital ridge.
So can you do those steps one more time, please?
Step one is to get the head in position that you want, right here. Step two is to place your right hand on the client's left shoulder if you're working on the left side. With a hand on the left side, apply downward pressure, and then push apart. This is pretty easy to do. Very, very simple, straightforward stretch. And on the other side, you would just reverse your positioning, so like this. Now, the second stretch is going to be very similar, except now we're going to put the head in position, so we're going to turn the head to the side, and so the nose is pointed towards the ear. Same kind of positioning, but now my hand's right on his occipital bone, and then I'm going to press downward here and then stretch here. And you'll just get a little bit different musculature with this particular stretch. So that's number two.
So you're just moving your hand and the head.
The idea is first you apply downward pressure, see, so that lengthens the muscles already. So if I do it at the same time, you don't get quite as good of a stretch. If you press down on the shoulder first and then push to the side, you get a more specific, detailed stretch, I feel. And is that okay? This stretches for not going past where it's okay
No,
for you.
you're good.
Okay. So third stretch, this is one of Dr. Joe's favorites. Okay, this is more like a traction sort of stretch. This isn't necessarily the easiest to do, but I'll use it. It is effective. Two ways to do. First way is you're going to place your hand underneath the occipital ridge like this. So the occipital ridge is resting right here on my hand. And then I'm going to just slightly tilt the head back, not much, just a little. Then my other hand is going to go underneath the chin. Main pressure is here. I'm going to end up using the table kind of as a lever as I pull backward, and you're going to pull straight towards yourself. So you don't want too much pressure here under the chin, it's important not to end up having your hand on the throat, the ulnar side, so just keep it high enough. I'd say as far as pull, 80, 20, somewhere around there. So it looks like this. And you just hold, like so. This does take some muscle force. You know, it doesn't work so well if you just try to lean back here. You really want to use this arm, depending which arm you're using, as the lever as you're pressing against, and this hand too. So it's like as you're doing the motion, this hand's pulling back and you're moving your body forward like this. But it will take muscle force with the hand underneath. So again, it looks like this. The other way to do is to take your hand, you have 3 fingers here, middle fingers under the occipital protuberance, other 2 fingers are around gallbladder 20, and then your pinkies and thumb are just kind of hanging out. So that one looks like this. So I get up and under like so, and then same sort of thing. So I'm pulling. And if you do this properly, if you do it properly and you get enough traction with it, people will feel this all the way down to their sacrum. Like you can actually feel the spine stretching. Sometimes people only feel it to like, you know, T6, T7, T8, but some people will feel this all the way down their spine. So those are the 2 ways to do that one. And then last for the neck, when I do this particular stretch, I tend to be careful with it. You know, at first just to check out the client's range, because sometimes with stretching, if you don't do the stretch right or things aren't loosened up enough, you can actually cause the muscle to tighten if you stretch in the wrong way with the neck and the upper back. I've experienced that a couple of times when I've done that stretch, and then you have to go back and work it out. So just be careful with direction and what you're doing with the stretch. So this one plays into when we had rotating technique, right? So we're rotating, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch upward in this direction. So the head's going to move up and it's going to go to the right. And the idea is now when my hand's underneath, when we're doing rotating, like we move our body, but then when I do the stretch, see my hand's going to be on his shoulder, this other hand's going to guide the head in the direction I want it to go, and then I'm just going to stand up. And just standing up, use your arm as a lever, and it will do the stretch. So it looks like this. So that's rotating, see, and then we stretch. And you could really stretch either direction you want to here. Or you could change arms to go to the other side. But you really want to apply pressure on the shoulder downward here. So see, I'm pressing down as I'm standing up. So you can play with the direction that you want to take it. And you can use either arm for this. So I could switch to the other side. Here. And that looks like this. See? Pressing downward. And then the last is kind of a cross. You're crossing your arms over both shoulders, and the head's going to go straight forward towards the feet. Okay. Looks like this. So you squat, and see, then you just stand to straighten, and then press down on the shoulders as you stand. Okay, so those are the stretches that Dr. Joe always shows for the neck when he teaches stretching. So we'll make a group.